guys, what's up? It's Savannah. Welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we are doing another unsolved case, and this one just really hit me. I saw it in my suggestion, and when I started looking more into it, I really just felt compelled to do it in some way. This is one of those cases where you feel like there's an obvious answer and you feel like there's an obvious answer's kind of right in front of you type of case, but still to this day, no one has been charged, and the person that we are talking about still has not been found. So the person we are talking about today is Kyron Horman. So this is Kyron Horman. He was born on September 9th of 2002 to his parents Desiree Young and Cain Horman. Parents described him as a typical 7-year-old kid. He was the type of kid that every parent wanted to have. He loved just playing and getting in dirt. He was just described as an amazing little boy. So before Kyron was born, Cain and Desiree had some infidelity issues. Cain had actually cheated on Desiree, so that caused the two of them to split up, and both of them went on to marry new people. Desiree ended up marrying a man named Tony, and Cain ended up marrying a woman named Terry. Desiree, Kyron's biological mom, had some health complications when Kyron was pretty young. She had kidney failure, and she was just really struggling a lot health-wise, and so she was constantly having to go to the hospital, and she eventually went up to Canada to get health treatments. And so because of this, she signed off custody of Kyron to Cain, so that way he could live with them full-time, and that way she wouldn't have to worry about getting him back and forth from Canada to Oregon. Cain and Terry did live in Portland, Oregon, and when Desiree was in the recovery process and worrying about getting better and resting and working with medical bills and all those types of things, the two of them, Cain and Desiree, decided together that it would be best for Kyron to stay with Cain permanently. And Desiree lived about 4.5 hours away in a town called Medford, Oregon. So Desiree would go up and see Kyron on weekends and holidays, and they still had a really good relationship. And Kyron and Cain had an amazing relationship. They were super close. Kyron loved his dad. And from the outside, everything looked pretty good. Both Desiree and Tony, as well as Cain and Terry, ended up having other kids mixed in, so it was kind of like one big Brady Bunch family. Cain and Terry actually had one daughter of their own, and Terry had an older son from a previous relationship. He was older than Kyron, and Cain and him didn't really get along, so Terry and Cain decided together that it would be best if Terry's oldest son moved out. I couldn't find where he went, but they just decided that it was best if he moved out. I don't know if he went and lived with his father. I don't know if he went and lived with other family. I couldn't find where he moved to. So now let's talk about June 4th, 2010. So Kyron attended Skyline Elementary School in Portland, Oregon, and he was super excited because on this day he had a school science fair, and he had worked on this science project. His project was all on the red-eyed tree frog, and he worked really hard on it, and so he was really excited to go to school and have people look at it. And Kyron's mom, Desiree, couldn't make it for the fair. She was busy doing other things, and so she decided to stay back, but her and Terry had an agreement where Terry would end up going to the science fair with Kyron instead. That way he had someone to go with. So how the science fair worked on the specific day of school, it was kind of like a special schedule. The school portion of the day didn't start until 10 a.m. Science fair went on from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Then the students would proceed to their regular school day following that. So around 8:45 a.m., Terry says that she left the school and said goodbye to Kyron and went on about her day. And when Terry and Cain went to go to the bus stop to pick Kyron up from school, they realized Kyron didn't actually get off the bus. So they obviously were a little bit concerned, and so they ended up calling the school, and the school had actually said that Kyron wasn't at school that day. They had marked him absent. Schools will typically call, especially if it's an elementary school or a middle school sometimes, schools will typically call the parents to say, hey, your child didn't show up to school today. I just want to make sure that you know that. Are they sick? What's the deal? And that's typically how it goes. But the school had actually never called Cain or Terry or Desiree or anyone, so no one actually knew that he was missing before this. So Cain and Terry then called Desiree, who was completely frantic and panicking, and immediately started to drive up to Portland from Medford. This is when things start to get a little bit tricky. According to Terry, the last time she saw Kyron was when she walked up the steps to Kyron's classroom on the second floor with her daughter and Kyron beat her up the stairs, she said, and the last thing she remembers is seeing the back of his head walking in to his classroom. Terry's story contradicts every other person who claimed to have seen Kyron and Terry that day. According to multiple people in the school, they said that Terry and Kyron stayed until about 8:45. That is when Terry and Kyron left the school together, and to solidify that even more, one of Kyron's friends even says he remembers seeing Terry and Kyron leaving the science fair outside of the school. Apparently they had taken the side entrance instead of the main entrance, and they got in their truck together and then they left. And what's crazy is to this day, Terry has stuck to her story that the last time she saw Kyron was at the top of those steps when he was walking into that classroom, and that was the last time she has ever seen him. So the authorities were called immediately, and it was figured out that Kyron had gone missing between the time period of 8:45 in the morning to 8:55 in the morning. And a lot of people thought this was really odd, because how likely is it that your child goes to school with a guardian, with a parental guardian, and once that guardian leaves, within 10 minutes they vanish and are never seen again? But something to also note is that this was a very kind of come and go science fair. It was kind of very open house in a way. It was just kind of people were coming and going. There wasn't really a lot of security. I don't think anyone actually even had to check in. It was just kind of come and go as you please. And so then the question popped up of, okay, well maybe he just left on his own. And according to multiple people, Kyron was more of a shy, introverted type of kid. He's really not the type to just wander out on his own, especially during his science fair and a day he was so excited about, and it just wasn't like him and his personality to just up and leave everything. So the police automatically showed up to Terry and Cain's home, and shortly after that, Desiree and Tony arrived. And Tony was actually a local policeman in Medford. So what he did was he kind of told Cain and Desiree and Terry what was about to happen, that they were going to get interrogated and how they were going to have no privacy and they were going to need to tell everything and take polygraphs. And according to Tony, Terry started to get very uncomfortable and started acting very weird at the fact that she would have to talk to the police and didn't want to talk to the police, didn't want them asking her questions and things like that. And all of the parents were asked to take polygraphs, and disclaimer on polygraphs are not 100% accurate at all. They're really not a great indicator of whether someone is guilty or not. There's a lot of different factors that play into it, but it is something to note, which is why I'm mentioning it. So the first round of polygraph tests, Cain passed, Desiree passed, Tony passed, but Terry did not pass. She was then asked to take another polygraph test, which she again did not pass. And the third polygraph test she took, she actually ended up walking out on. Terry said that she is hard of hearing and deaf, I believe, in her left ear or her right ear. And because of that, she needs to see people in order to be able to read their lips. Because the polygraph examiner was sitting behind her, she was not able to do that. So the polygraph instructor was sitting behind her and speaking, and she couldn't fully understand what he was saying. I'm not quite sure why she walked out on the third one. I guess she just had enough of it and she ended up walking out. Terry and Desiree had a pretty interesting relationship. There was a lot of noticeable hostility, and in the beginning of the disappearance and in the investigation, Kyron's biological parents as well as step parents all would kind of show up in the media together and they would talk together. But it was on day 22 of the investigation that it actually came out. Terry had reportedly hired a landscaper that had worked for her for a murder for hire plot against Cain. Cain had completely supported Terry up until this point. He stood by her and he completely was 100% on her side. But when this happened, he actually got a restraining order against her as well as filed for divorce. Now, this whole murder for hire plot has never actually been proven. The landscaper, the man who said that this all happened, went into court and kind of recanted his statement a little bit, and things were very messy, and Terry said obviously it didn't happen. In my opinion, I think it is very telling of the person she is. If she did do something like this, if you're able to hire someone to murder your husband, I definitely don't think it's far-fetched to believe that she would do something to Kyron. Terry's statements were kind of all over the place, and in one of her statements she told the police that she remembers seeing a stranger at the school, and this had a lot of people questioning, because if you're going to a school to watch your child's science fair, there's a decent chance you're not going to know every person there. And she wasn't able to describe this stranger, she wasn't able to say anything about him other than the fact that she remembers seeing seeing a stranger that day. But because she wasn't to identify them or say what they looked like or give any description, it kind of just went to nothing because she wasn't able to back that up. So Terry said she left the school at 8:45 a.m. that day, and in between 8:45 and 10:10, she just went about her day running typical errands and things like that. And from 10:10 to approximately 11:39, she ended up driving her child, Kiara, Cain and her's daughter that they shared, just around in her car. Apparently she had an earache, and so she was trying to calm her down by just driving her around. Babies sometimes fall asleep in cars, and it just kind of helps calm them down. So she was hoping that would do that for Kiara. And then from 11:39 to 12:20, she actually ended up going to the gym. She then went home and actually posted pictures online, I believe it was Facebook, pictures of Kyron at his science fair. So that is the timeline that Terry gave the police. But when the police looked into Terry's medical records, they actually found out that her timeline did not match where her phone was. Like, her locations did not match the things that she was doing at the time she said that she was doing them. Her records just basically didn't match up to where she said she was throughout the day. Desiree said from the beginning she always had an instinctual feeling that Terry did something to Kyron. Desiree said that when Terry was first telling her what happened that day at school, she just got an instinctual feeling that something was not right and that she wasn't getting the full story, which was extremely frustrating, obviously, as a mother, if your child is missing. And as far as you know, the last person to see them is telling you a story and you just feel like you're not getting the full part of it. Like, that is extremely aggravating. It came to the point where Desiree actually came out to the public and asked Terry to cooperate with the police because Terry wasn't speaking to the police. She didn't want to cooperate. She didn't want to take any more polygraph tests. She didn't want to do anything. She wanted it all to be done. And while this is all going on, all the investigating and all the everything, there's no sign of Kyron anywhere. The last time he was reported seen was from his friend when he said he saw Terry and Kyron leave that day at school together. Terry had gone on the Dr. Phil show. I'll have the links to it in the description box below if you want to go check it out. In my opinion, her attitude was completely just, she did not want to be there. She just wanted to get her name crossed off the list, and that was that. Because from day one, like, her story has not changed. She has always said that she would never left the school with Kyron, that the last time she saw Kyron was when she said goodbye to him at the top of the steps, watching him walk into his classroom. So on this Dr. Phil episode, she gets asked about her relationship with Cain before the divorce, and when asked if they ever got into arguments, she said no, they had what she called heated discussions. She said that they never would scream at each other, that they would never yell at each other, but they definitely did have heated discussions. Terry did come out and say that she was unhappy in the marriage, and she said that she would try to tell Cain that, but she said Cain wasn't a very good listener. And Cain even came out and said that he did not pay enough attention to Terry at that time in their marriage. He said that he could have paid more attention to her. He said the economy was dropping, he was worried about his job, and he was focusing on work, and he was focusing on his kids. And so because of that, Terry kind of took a step back, and he said he could have, in hindsight, paid more attention to her. Desiree and Cain themselves, which I think this is pretty telling, just because it's not Desiree and Tony, it's Desiree and Cain was married to Terry, and the fact that he's able to make these accusations says a lot, in my opinion. Just because out of anyone, I feel like he would know her best. And he's even come forward at this point and said, I don't know if she has it in her to do something. Desiree and Cain have accused Terry of writing emails to her friends saying how much she hates Kyron, blaming her marital problems on Kyron. At one point, she asked Desiree to take back custody of Kyron, got her hair and makeup done, and went to the gym just 4 days after Kyron disappeared. She even wrote on her Facebook, it was along the lines of, got home too late tonight, or got home at 8 p.m. tonight, gonna go to the gym tomorrow. And when Dr. Phil confronted her about this, just because it is odd behavior if your son or your stepson, but mind you, she actually claims that Kyron is her true son, not Desiree's true son, her true son, because she raised him every single day, but in her views, he is her son and not really Desiree's. It's just an odd behavior to have your son who you claim is yours, you love so much, this and that, to go missing, and you're acting so distraught for the public and crying and acting so worried, but 3-4 days later you're putting on Facebook, got home too late tonight, gonna hit the gym tomorrow. And her response to this was basically saying that the police told her to go on as if everything was normal and to act like she was living a normal life. And I've never been in a situation like this, luckily, so I'm not 100% sure how the police tell you to act, but I personally just believe it's very odd to just be that normal and that back into your normal normal life. So this interview was about 6 years after Kyron's disappearance. So to add on to the list of Terry's odd behavior, Terry had actually started engaging in a sexual texting relationship with one of Cain's friends. His name is Michael Cook. He was actually a neighbor of Cain and Terry's, and he knew Cain from high school. When confronted about this, her response to this was that she did this whole thing with Michael, and the text seemed genuine. When they were reading off the text in the show, and when you see them, it's like those seem genuine. Those don't seem fake. Those don't seem like you're sending these texts to get back at someone, which was essentially why she said she did this. She said that she sent these texts to Michael, that her and Michael were having this little sexting relationship because she had actually found out that Cain had cheated on her or texted another girl, or there was some encounter with another girl. I couldn't exactly figure out what it was, but there was some encounter that she said this is why she was doing this, is because she was trying to get back at him and get revenge on him. Which again, reading the text, they don't seem like that. Those seem like legit. They traded pictures, they were doing everything, but Terry said she had no intention of ever sleeping with Michael, ever meeting up with Michael. This was simply just to get back at Cain. Once Cain and Terry got a divorce, Terry really wanted to start a new life. She wanted to start fresh. She wanted to leave everything behind. She moved away from Portland, and I saw this in a couple articles. She actually attempted to change her name. She wanted to change her name to Claire Sullivan, and the reason she wanted to choose Claire Sullivan was because it was a character in one of her favorite murder mystery novels. Terry does have a little bit of a record. She was charged with reckless endangerment after she drove drunk with her son in the backseat, her older son, the one that she kicked out of the house because he didn't get along with Cain. He was in the car with her when he was younger, and Terry was drunk and driving with him in the backseat, so she got a reckless endangerment charge. As far as evidence goes, and as far as facts goes, that's really all there is in this case, and that's what's so incredibly frustrating, is because Kyron didn't just disappear. He didn't just vanish. He didn't just walk away. The fact that in between 8:45 and 8:55, that 10-minute span, he went missing, and no one has seen from him, heard from him since, blows my mind. There has not been one piece of evidence found. Kyron went to school to go to his science fair, and he never returned. And he left that school one way or another, and he has never been seen since. So we'll run through the theories in this case now. The first theory is that Kyron went off with a stranger. The school fair was very in and out. People could kind of come and go as they wanted. There wasn't a lot of security, so maybe someone did come in, and maybe someone did seek out Kyron. Maybe someone had been seeking him out for a while. Maybe someone saw Terry leave and saw a perfect opportunity to go in and just grab Kyron, which would be the perfect circumstance. It was a very in and out type of thing. It was a very open house feel, so maybe someone did come in, see their opportunity, and took it. That theory gets a little bit contradicted when you put into fact that multiple people saw Kyron and Terry leave Skyline Elementary School together, walk outside of the school, get in the truck, and drive away after that science fair in between 8:45 and 8:55 a.m. Terry had multiple motives that could make her angry enough to potentially do something to hurt or harm Kyron. Her marriage was failing. She thought Kyron was getting more attention than she was. Cain has even admitted that he gave more attention to his children than he did to Terry. Maybe she just wanted it to be Cain, Terry, and Kiara as their little family. The evidence is circumstantial, and there's no evidence linking Terry to harming Kyron. Terry hasn't been charged yet and arrested yet with this. Terry says she hasn't been charged yet because she didn't do anything and she's not guilty. So I really am curious to see what you guys have to say about this case below. There's not a lot of proof and there's not a lot of evidence, but something happened to Kyron. He didn't just vanish. This past summer on June 4th, the anniversary of Kyron's disappearance, Desiree actually posted a Facebook status with a whole dedication to Kyron. She's always going to keep looking for him. She's never going to stop fighting for him. And she said something pretty interesting. She said, and I'm just reading it over here, "Stay tuned, something big is coming, I promise you. Terry isn't gonna get away with staying silent about where Kyron is and not have to answer for it." So who knows what could happen with this case in the future, but I definitely think it needs more recognition just because there really are not a lot of answers right now. Alright you guys, that was the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name's Savannah. I make videos 3 days a week, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. You should subscribe, join the family. I love you guys so much, and I'll be back in a couple of days with a brand new video. Bye guys.